I decided, even though we're out in Sausalito, California, that I had to make another video. And the video that I'm going to make, this brief conversation, is about a human being could soften themselves into enlightenment, which is a strange thought, really, for one who believes, in a way, we're led to believe that our enlightenment is somehow expanding, an attainment, a reaching for something, an act of consciousness expansion. But actually, in my experience, the very thing, the very fact of softening could take us all the way. Why? Because you soften and soften and soften and soften. And I'm not talking about on the exterior, I'm talking about on the deepest interior levels. You soften and soften and soften until what happens? Dissolving happens. The dissolving of the self. And upon the dissolving of the self, there's nothing left. And if there's nothing left of the self, well then what is there? Enlightenment, ultimately, because enlightenment is emerging into union. And the union is the end of the self. Hold on, there's a car. So the softening is no easy thing. The softening is the end of all judgment, the end of all projection, the end of all measuring, in effect. And this is anathema to the self that finds itself doing all of those things as an act of unconsciousness over and over and over. It's rooted in that. It's rooted in judgment. It's rooted in projection. It's rooted in measuring. But this measuring just gets us in more and more trouble, particularly in these days where you pick one side over another side. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't lead to enlightenment, and it doesn't really lead to an awakening. So somehow we must find our way to a deeper equanimity, the equanimity of I don't mind what happens. And this is a very soft place. Softening would take us all the way. Could we but soften? But the softening that I'm talking about is a great silence. So almost as though we just keep on falling below the level of minds clutching at needing to know or knowing or anything. And we're falling into an ever deeper silence of being, silent stillness, of nothingness, of emptiness itself. There's such a grace in this. But it's soft. Soft. So soft, it's like a soft touch. The soft touch of nothingness, like a feather falling, or a snowflake falling effortlessly to the ground. You can't even hear it. Does it touch the ground, or does it just merge with the ground? Mind likes to think it touches the ground, but being happens to know that it just merges with the ground into union. The snowflake that dissolves into the ground is the softness that I'm really talking about here. It's an alive intimacy, the intimacy with what is. Intimacy is a kind of grace, soft intimacy of being. How beautiful. This is the kind of enlightenment that I'm curious about, that I love. The intimacy of love with itself, really, isn't it? The intimacy of grace is love with itself, seeing itself, knowing itself in all things as one. No separation, no judgment, no other at all. That's where softening takes you. We're also busy being someone that even when it comes to undoing the someone, we still do it as though there's a someone. And even the undoing of someone is a very mindy operation. But it's not really. This undoing of the someone is such a deep, tender, kind, soft, beautiful intimacy. It's almost unspeakable. The unspeakable softness of love. How exquisite is that? I don't think it gets much more intimately exquisite than that. The unspeakable intimacy of being is love meeting itself and knowing itself in everything, as everything. I better stop now.